Well, hi everyone, it's Jeff Hopper back with Tracy Hanson.
Good to be back.
And we are glad to be with you again. We've been talking about relating to God and how we do that, the number of ways that we do that. And this time we're going to talk about one that is pretty serious. We recently did a series on suffering and some of the things that happen there. And this is a way we relate to God that comes out of our suffering sometimes. And that is crying out to God. I've had people cry out to me after a round of golf. I'm sure you have,
Yes.
because it just hasn't been their day and they need to unload their pain.
Right.
Do you feel like that's something you want to do, help someone unload their pain?
No, because I usually have my own pain, my own round of golf that I want to unload.
Absolutely.
But as I reflect back on my own career and as I play with people, it is so natural for us to immediately go to all the bad things that happen in our round. And I had a couple friends that always tried to hold me accountable. Okay, what was good about your round? Let's talk about those for a few minutes and talk about some of the bad things, so you got to have both in there.
Yeah, you do have to have both in there, but it is nice, I guess you could say, or it's a nice illustration for us that at least somewhere in their lives, a lot of people do have someone to vent to cry out to.
Yeah.
It's not often, unfortunately, someone who can truly help them like God can.
Right.
Yeah, so we want to talk a little bit about that, going to God as those who cry out. In the 34th Psalm, we read that the righteous cry out, and the Lord hears them. He delivers them from all their troubles. That's quite a promise, that if we'll be honest with God about what's going on. You talk a lot about putting your story out there, and that means putting your pain before God, doesn't it?
Yeah, and so often as Christians, we think we just have to talk about the good things and paint this picture that Jesus is this rah-rah positive, or he's going to make everything good. And really it's the lament in our souls that takes us into the presence of God. It's lamenting is crying out, complaining to God, remembering where he has shown up before, and using complaint, crying out to lead us toward praise. It's being me-focused and crying out and getting to God-focused. And I've been in a season of where I've just been studying lament, practicing lament, and I have felt very close into the presence of God during those moments where I'm lamenting, but just kind of every day. Like just my soul feels more connected.
Tracy and I have been the last several days with our national board, and Tracy talked a little bit to us all about kind of a pattern of lament and how lament often starts with that crying out, but it leads to this recognition of what God can do.
Yeah, or just who he is.
Right, who
Maybe
he is.
he won't fix the problem or the suffering, right? Because so often we have so many why questions that we'll never get the answer to. And yet the one thing that we need and the only thing we need is Jesus himself.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Many of you know that I'm in my 5th year now of dealing with cancer and some of these things. And I think early on there was a lot of crying out in terms of what's going on, why can't get the answers. I'm not really a why God, or is this happening, but why can't I get my help that I need right now, or some of these things. And that has turned, as the years have gone on, into more of a recognition that it really doesn't matter how it works out. My God has this. And whatever my body goes through, what he's doing is more important than that. And so that crying out can bring us to that place, can't it?
Yeah. That's what I've been learning. And to me, it's just more authentic and more real. It's a more real relationship with him.
Yeah, and you deal a lot with people who've been through trauma, and that there's a similar pattern there of what's going on, God? Why am I dealing with this? Why is it coming on me in such a horrible way? And yet if we're willing to work through that instead of run from it, amazing things can happen.
Yeah, and the first step of that is naming truth. And naming truth is naming the good and the bad.
Yeah.
And so getting into what is hard and hurtful and painful is not saying that God's not enough. It's actually saying, okay, God, I'm just being honest before you. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I've experienced. I need you.
Yeah. Well, we encourage you, if you're at that place in your life, to cry out to the Lord, because that's one of the things that He wants to do, is hear from you, even in the depths of your pain. And we hope that's an encouragement to you if that's a place where you are right now. We'll see you in a week.